Jikook family, welcome back to Jikook. Today, we are going straight into a moment that looks simple at first, but the more you watch it, the more details you begin to notice. This time, we are following Jungkook and Jimin as they make their way home from Europe. And trust me, family, this is not just about a flight back to Korea. There is something about the atmosphere, the timing, the little comments, and especially one very memorable appearance from Jimin that makes this journey worth talking about. Let's begin with Jungkook. Inside the plane, Jungkook is already settled into his seat, wearing a neck pillow and looking much more relaxed than someone who has just come through a busy European schedule. The atmosphere around him is calmer now. There is no stage, no performance, no large crowd in front of him. It is simply the quiet environment of a flight home. And then Jungkook says something that immediately gives us a clue about how he feels about the trip. He says, "I guess I was really happy in Europe." That sentence is simple, but it carries a lot of warmth. After spending time in Europe, experiencing the places, the schedule, the atmosphere, and everything that came with the trip, Jungkook looks back on the experience with happiness. And there is something very natural about the way he says it. He is not trying to make the moment dramatic. He is simply reflecting on the time he has just experienced. But then, Jikook family, the camera gives us another little surprise. Because while Jungkook is relaxing in his seat, Jimin appears in a completely different mood. And yes, family, this is the Jimin moment we have to talk about. Jimin is wearing a sheet mask on the plane, not a small mask, not something subtle. We are talking about Jimin sitting there with a full skincare mask covering his face while the journey home is underway. And honestly, there is something incredibly funny and charming about the contrast. Jungkook is sitting comfortably with his neck pillow, looking like he is ready to rest after the European schedule. And then there is Jimin, apparently deciding that the flight home is the perfect opportunity for some serious skincare. This is exactly the kind of unexpected moment that makes a travel video memorable. The trip is winding down. The European schedule is behind them. The plane is taking them toward Korea, and Jimin's priority appears to be very clear. Skincare first. Because if you have a long flight ahead of you, why not turn the airplane seat into a temporary beauty treatment room? And Jimin does not seem embarrassed about it at all. He simply wears the mask and gets on with the journey. That little detail immediately changes the mood of the entire story. Instead of a dramatic farewell to Europe, we suddenly get something much more personal and relaxed. This is Jimin after the schedule. This is Jimin during the journey home. This is the quiet side of the trip that fans do not always get to see. And then comes the sentence that makes the entire moment even more interesting. Jimin says, "I really want to come back to Europe soon." Now, Jikook family, put those two comments together. Jungkook says he was really happy in Europe. Jimin says he really wants to come back to Europe soon. Two different people, two different comments. But the same destination has clearly left a strong impression on both of them. And that is where this story becomes much more than just a flight home. Because sometimes you can learn a lot about a trip by listening to how people talk about it after it is already over. When someone says they were happy there, it means the experience stayed with them. When someone says they want to return, it means the place left enough of an impression that they are already thinking about the next visit. And in this case, both Jungkook and Jimin are expressing positive feelings about Europe while sitting on the plane heading away from it. There is something almost bittersweet about that. You have just finished a journey. You know you are going home. But part of you is already thinking about returning. And Jimin's sheet mask somehow makes the entire scene even more memorable. Because while talking about coming back to Europe, he looks completely comfortable. There is no glamorous airport appearance here. There is no carefully prepared image. There is simply Jimin, sitting on a plane, taking care of his skin, and talking about wanting to return. And honestly, that is one of the things that makes the moment so enjoyable. It feels casual. It feels like the kind of conversation that happens after a long trip when everyone is finally able to relax. And then we come back to Jungkook. He is sitting with his neck pillow, looking calm and reflecting on the trip. The visual itself already tells us that the hectic part is over. The schedule has been completed. The traveling is almost done. Now there is only the journey back to Korea. And somewhere between those two destinations, we get these little reflections from Jungkook and Jimin. Jungkook remembers Europe with happiness. Jimin is already talking about going back. That is the emotional center of the video. Not some huge dramatic event, not a complicated story. Just two people looking back on a trip and revealing in their own simple ways that they enjoyed being there. And this is where the title of today's Jikook verse story comes in. For Jungkook, Jimin would do it all. Now, family, when we say do it all, we are not talking about some enormous gesture that needs to be announced to the world. Sometimes doing it all is simply being there through the ordinary parts of a journey. The long flights, the tired moments, the waiting, the quiet time, the skincare, the neck pillow, the conversations about where you have been and where you want to go next. Those ordinary details are what make travel feel real, and this video gives us exactly that. Jungkook looks relaxed. Jimin is taking care of his skin. The plane is carrying them back toward Korea, and the conversation turns toward Europe. There is something comforting about seeing that transition. One moment, you are surrounded by the excitement of another country. The next moment, you are sitting on an airplane, looking back at everything that happened. And Jimin's comment about returning to Europe becomes the perfect closing thought for the trip. He does not simply say that Europe was nice. He says he really wants to come back soon. That word matters. Soon, because it tells us that the experience is still fresh in his mind. He has barely left, yet he is already imagining another visit. And Jungkook's comment carries the same positive energy from another angle. He says he was really happy in Europe. So, while the flight is moving away from Europe physically, their thoughts are still connected to the experience they just had. That is what makes the moment feel so warm. And then there is Jimin's mask. Family, I have to say this again because it is such an unforgettable part of the video. Jimin really decided that the airplane was the perfect place for a sheet mask. There is something wonderfully casual about it. Most people might use the flight to sleep, watch something, listen to music, or simply stare out the window. Jimin, skincare, and somehow it works perfectly with the atmosphere. After a busy trip, taking a moment to relax and care for yourself makes complete sense. The long flight becomes a little personal reset. The sheet mask becomes part of the journey. And suddenly the trip home does not feel like an ending. It feels like a transition. Europe is over for now. Korea is ahead. And the people on board are slowly returning to their normal rhythm. Jungkook's neck pillow adds to that feeling. He looks ready to rest. Jimin's skincare routine adds another layer. He looks ready to take care of himself. And together, those details make the flight feel surprisingly intimate in the sense that we are seeing a quieter side of the journey. This is not the stage version of them. This is not a performance. This is simply a moment during travel. And those moments can sometimes be the most memorable. Jikook verse family, there is also something interesting about the timing of their comments. Jungkook reflects on Europe first. He says he was really happy there. Then Jimin appears with his sheet mask and says he really wants to come back to Europe soon. So we have two different emotional reactions to the same journey. Jungkook looks back. Jimin looks forward. Jungkook is remembering the happiness of the trip. Jimin is already thinking about returning. And that creates a beautiful little contrast. One is about memory, the other is about anticipation. But both come from the same place. They enjoyed Europe, and now they are heading home. There is also something very human about hearing people talk this way after traveling. When you have had a meaningful experience, you do not always need a long explanation. Sometimes you just say, "I was really happy." Sometimes you say, "I want to come back." And everyone understands. That is exactly what happens here. The words are simple, but the feeling behind them is easy to recognize. And for fans, those simple statements become part of the memory of the trip. Because someday, when people look back at this European journey, they may remember the big moments. They may remember the schedules. They may remember the locations. They may remember the outfits. But there is a good chance they will also remember something much smaller. Jimin wearing a sheet mask on the airplane. Jungkook sitting with his neck pillow. Jungkook saying he was happy in Europe. Jimin saying he wanted to return. Those are the details that give a journey personality. And honestly, family, if you're making a long flight home, Jimin's strategy is not a bad one. Get comfortable. Take care of your skin. Relax. And talk about the places you want to visit again. It sounds peaceful. And after a busy schedule, maybe peaceful is exactly what they needed. But there is another reason this moment works so well for a Jikook audience. The atmosphere is not loud. There is no need for exaggerated interaction. The charm comes from the fact that both Jungkook and Jimin are simply being themselves within the travel setting. Jungkook is comfortable. Jimin is comfortable. And the entire scene feels like the quiet aftermath of an exciting trip. That is why the title for today's story does not need to rely on a huge event. For Jungkook, Jimin would do it all can be understood through the little things. Being present during the journey, sharing the same long trip home, being part of those quiet hours after the schedule, and creating memories that fans can look back on. Sometimes love is not about doing something extraordinary. Sometimes it is about being part of someone's ordinary day, and travel gives us many ordinary moments. Sitting, waiting, resting, eating, talking. Taking care of yourself, looking back at the places you have visited, thinking about where you want to go next. This video captures exactly that kind of atmosphere. And because it happens on the flight home, there is an interesting emotional contrast. They are leaving Europe, but neither of them sounds ready to forget it. Jungkook says he was happy. Jimin says he wants to return. So even though the plane is moving toward Korea, their conversation keeps Europe alive for a little longer. It is almost like the trip has ended physically, but not emotionally. The memories are still there. The happiness is still there, and the desire to return is already there. Jimin's sheet mask becomes almost symbolic of the transition. He is literally sitting between two stages of the journey. The busy European schedule is behind him. The return to Korea is ahead. And in the middle, he is taking care of his skin and talking about the possibility of coming back. There is something funny and strangely wholesome about that. The trip may be ending, but Jimin is not acting like he is ready to say goodbye forever. Instead, he is already thinking about the next visit. And Jungkook's reaction to the European experience gives us another piece of the same picture. He was happy. Sometimes that is all you need to hear, because happiness is not complicated. You know it when you feel it. And when someone looks back on a trip and immediately describes it that way, it becomes part of the emotional record of that journey. So as the plane continues toward Korea, the mood is not really sadness. It is more like satisfaction. The feeling of having experienced something good and knowing that eventually you will return home. And perhaps that is why this particular video feels so different from a typical travel update. It does not need a dramatic conclusion. The story is already sitting there in the smallest details. Jungkook with his neck pillow, Jimin with his sheet mask, Jungkook remembering how happy he was, Jimin wanting to return, 4 simple details, 1 journey home, and a lot of feelings in between. Jikook verse family, this is also a reminder that sometimes we should allow moments to remain simple. We do not have to turn every glance into a declaration. We do not have to turn every second into a major event. Sometimes a beautiful moment is beautiful because it is ordinary. This flight is ordinary. The skincare routine is ordinary. The neck pillow is ordinary. Talking about a trip is ordinary. But when fans care deeply about the people involved, those ordinary moments become memories. And that is what makes this video worth revisiting, not because something explosive happened, but because we get to see the softer rhythm after the excitement. We get to see the transition from Europe back to Korea. We get to hear Jungkook say he was happy. We get to hear Jimin say he wants to return. And we get to see Jimin casually wearing a sheet mask as if the airplane were his personal skincare studio. Honestly, that last part alone deserves its own headline. Jimin leaves Europe and immediately turns the flight home into skincare time. That is dedication. And perhaps this is exactly the kind of ending that suits the trip. No dramatic goodbye, no heavy atmosphere, just comfort, just relaxation, just memories, and a little skincare. As the journey continues, the European adventure becomes something they can carry with them. Jungkook carries the memory of being happy there. Jimin carries the desire to return, and the plane carries them both toward Korea. The destination changes. The memories remain. And for fans, this little airplane moment becomes another piece of the larger Jikook journey. Not because we need to make it more complicated than it is, but because sometimes the simplest moments are the ones we remember longest. Jikook verse family, if there is one thing this video makes clear, it is that the end of a trip can sometimes be just as interesting as the beginning. The beginning is full of excitement. The destination is new, everything feels fresh. But the journey home is when you finally have time to process what happened. You sit down, you breathe, you rest. You think about the places you visited. You remember the moments that made you smile. And then you start talking about whether you would do it all again. Jungkook's answer is clear in his own way. He was happy. Jimin's answer is equally clear. He wants to come back. And maybe that is the perfect way to close the European chapter. Not with goodbye, but with see you again. So, Jikook verse family, when you look at this video again, remember the little details. Look at Jungkook sitting comfortably with his neck pillow. Listen to him reflecting on how happy he was in Europe. Then look at Jimin, completely committed to his sheet mask, turning an airplane seat into a skincare session. And listen when he says he really wants to come back to Europe soon. Those moments may seem small, but together they create a warm picture of the journey home. And that is what makes this story special. The flight is taking them away from Europe, but their words show that the experience is still very much with them. Jungkook remembers the happiness. Jimin imagines returning. And somewhere between those two thoughts, we get this quiet little airplane moment that fans can enjoy again and again. For Jungkook, Jimin would do it all. And perhaps sometimes, doing it all simply means sharing the journey, being present in the quiet moments, and making ordinary travel memories feel special. Because not every meaningful story needs a dramatic scene. Sometimes it is just two familiar faces on a plane heading home. One with a neck pillow. One with a sheet mask. One remembering Europe. One already planning to return. And that, Jikook verse family, is where we leave today's story. Europe is behind them. Korea is ahead. The flight continues. The memories remain. And Jimin's sheet mask has officially become one of the most unforgettable details of the journey home. This is Jikook verse, and sometimes the smallest moments really do tell the biggest story.